Hello, all you hopeful prospects out there. It's Coach Cook with Baseball University. We got another great college profile for you today. Got Coach Leighton from Albertus Magnus, and he's going to be discussing his program and trying to offer you some insight on what Division III baseball looks like, and hopefully offer you and your family some recruiting tips that will allow you to be successful in this process. So, Coach, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, Coach. The first question I have for you. And I love this conversation because baseball guys, we usually get around a little bit. I know you've been with the school for a while, but go ahead and share your background, your baseball story, and what led you to Albertus Magnus.
Yeah, so I have a very unique story in terms of how we ended up here. So growing up, decent player, could really run. And usually when you're the fastest guy in the field, people tend to think you're better than you really are. You hit a routine ground ball, you beat it out, everybody goes, oh, this guy's really good. So I played at a pretty high level, had some Division II scholarship offers, and ultimately ended up getting hurt and went to a small Division III school. Turns out I was so hurt, I needed 3 arm surgeries. And so I never ended up actually playing college baseball. I started, I didn't know it at the time, but it was a blessing in disguise. The assistant coach at the college I ended up going to at Eastern Connecticut State University was a Division III national power at the time. And for me, it was just what my family could afford, and it was local. So I went there for an education and tried out for the team, and they wanted me to redshirt and get surgery and all that stuff. And I just, the reality was, it wasn't in the cards for me in terms of surgery. It wasn't something we could afford. It wasn't something that was really part of my plan. And then the assistant coach said to me, hey, he was my head Legion coach, and he said, one of his players I've ever coached, I think he'd be really good as a student assistant. Are you interested? And, at the time I didn't really think much of it and took some time to think about it. I ended up being a student assistant there. 5.5 years later, I was doing the recruiting, and we had gone to 3 national titles and won a national championship, finished 1, 2, and 3 in the country. Looks really good on paper. They were really good before I got there. They were really good after. I was just in a good place, but I got to work with a Hall of Fame coach, Coach Bill Howati, all-time leader in wins for all Division III. And so Coach kind of got me onto it. I coached a year of high school baseball as a head coach, and then at the age of 23 got the head job at Albertus Magnus, and 16 short years later, here we are. So it's been a lot of fun. It's gone by quick, but we're definitely that's kind of my story. And so, as a guy that was overlooked, I'm a smaller guy, 5'6". There's a special place in my heart. I dealt with coaches that overlooked me because of my size, and so I come from that vein of there's a reason why we call ourselves the Tampa Bay Rays of Division III. Because we're kind of an island of misfit toys, and we embrace that and we like it. And everybody that's on our team is somebody that typically has a story of why they got here, and it makes for guys that play real hard and don't take things for granted. So it's definitely a fun place to be in terms of coaching.
All right, Coach, discuss your career at Albertus Magnus so far. What accomplishments, memories, additions to the program have you made that you're proud of?
Yeah, I mean, when I took the program over, I was 23. I'd won a national title as an assistant coach. Previously, the school I was coming from, thought I knew everything there was to know about coaching, and found out real fast that when you go from making suggestions to making decisions, things change a little bit. That extra 5 feet you slide over in the dugout, it's a lot longer than people realize. So, I was part-time, was in the process of getting my master's degree at the time. Virtually no facilities, no budget, and so we were really definitely a knife at a gunfight. I think even a knife at a gunfight might even be a stretch. We might have just had a rock to throw at them. That was really what we were. My first team had 13 players on it, so it's tough to run a college program with 13 guys, but did make the playoffs though. So it was one of those things where we slowly built it up, and the college itself has gone through a transition. So when we started, had a field that that wasn't ours. And so for up until about 5 years ago, we had a town field that was, the relationship wasn't great. And we worked hard to build up the facilities that we have and as a college itself. So we now have a field that's a couple blocks down the street. It is a town field, but it's really just ours. We don't really share it with anybody. And we have an indoor facility that we've been able to, over the last 7 or 8 years, rent out. It's a turf facility, cages, covered bubble for defensive purposes, and 4 soccer fields that are turf, which in New England is important, obviously. So we've done those types of improvements in terms of, just facilities in general, brand new athletic weight room, brand new team room, brand new batting cage, all that kind of stuff. So we've definitely grown in terms of that. The college has provided me the last 2 years with a graduate assistant, which has been a tremendous help. Division III coaches, a lot of times you got a lot of different hats that you wear. And I'm not just the baseball coach. I'm director of operations and facilities for the college for athletics. So that's basically a fancy title for does everything that needs to get done to run the department. So it's all the equipment management. It's all the scheduling of all the umpires. It's all of the facilities management. It's all of the laundry. It's all of the, you name it, I do it. So it's exciting, but it's a lot of work. And so you have to, the college itself has grown so much. Our president that we had really took us a long ways. And in the last couple of years, we added a new president who is a former pitcher from Rollins College in Florida. So he is most definitely a sports guy and has been a huge part of what we've been able to do the last few years. And so it's definitely one thing that I'm very proud of with our guys is that we graduate our players on time and they're good, productive people. And so if my legacy as a baseball coach is that, yeah, maybe he didn't win a national championship, but all of his guys have great paying jobs. They're good people and they're productive members of society. I'm okay with that as a legacy. I like to win, obviously, but we're not going to do that. We believe winning is a byproduct of doing things the right way. And the reason why we've won the last couple of years is we've had a little bit better facilities, developed players, and the support is a key part of it. But the reason why I get so excited is seeing that freshman who comes in and just doesn't know his left foot from his right foot. When he walks across that stage in May and he's got a degree in his hand and he's going, he's graduating on Sunday and he's going to work on Monday, and he's a completely different kid. That transformation of 4 years where he becomes a man is really what gets exciting for me because, you see those guys, a lot of the guys that we have are first generation college students or, were overlooked and didn't really believe in themselves. And then they leave as this confident person. And you're just like, I wish I could show you, what you looked like when the first time I met you, confused, I didn't know where anything was. And so, yeah, that's really, I would say for us, we've consistently made the playoffs. There's, I think, been 1 or 2 years we haven't made it. We definitely, we're when you play us, you're playing. We're going to fight you till the very end. We don't take anything for granted. And perspective's a big thing of what we do and what we preach. And so our guys are very much, you're going to know you played against us. We're not going to beat ourselves. Put it that way. And so, if that's the legacy that we have, we play the game the right way and we compete our butts off and we respect the game. To me, I'm okay with that. That's really what we are. We're a bunch of blue collar guys that just get written, and you better not make a mistake because we're going to take advantage of it. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
All right, being a D3 program, talk about what student athletes, which type of student athletes profile best for your program and the advantages you feel you provide them compared to some of the other levels of college baseball.
Yeah, I mean, Division III baseball is very much it's misconstrued in a lot of ways. People think it's not a serious thing. Division III baseball obviously allows you to be a student and an athlete, but it doesn't mean that it's still a job in a sense. It's still a privilege to play baseball in college. And, for us, we have what we call our 4 pillars that we go off of. And so they're non-negotiables for us: outstanding attitude, outstanding effort, coachability, and lastly, graduating on time. And, the guys that don't graduate on time for us are guys that usually are transfers from somewhere else or have decided to get their master's degree in 5 years, which to me I consider graduating on time. But we focus on those four things because we believe that those ultimately result in perspective. And for me, perspective is something that either makes or breaks you pretty much in every area of your life. You can pretty much tie everything and everybody's success to having perspective. Most of the time, all you can do is respond to things. You can't necessarily control what happens. And if you lack perspective in one of those four areas, typically you're going to have a problem. You could be a guy that works really hard. You could be a guy that's got a great attitude. But if you're not coachable, ultimately when something doesn't go your way, you're going to be stubborn and you're going to fail. So those are the four things that we look for as a baseline before we even look at talent. So those are also choices that everybody makes on a daily basis. So that's the type of student athlete that excels in our program. And I think a lot of times at Division III level, some of the most successful student athletes are those types of players. Division III is something that allows you can develop your career for yourself through a strong internship where you graduate. And we say this all the time. Our goal is not just for our guys to get jobs. Our goal is to get jobs in the field that they want to have them in and right away. So, my goal and with our system that we have set up within the college that really originated from the baseball program, they now have most of the time graduate on Sunday and go to work on Monday. It's funny. So many times guys will graduate. That's my favorite day of the year is graduation. To see the families and how proud that moment is, knowing they earned it. And then usually my line is to them is, well, enjoy the next 24 hours because tomorrow morning you got to get up and go to work. I think that's really Division III offers that opportunity where, a lot of times you can work, you can, provide a lot of, college is not a cheap thing. And Division III offers that ability to be a student and an athlete. You can have a social life, but also be an athlete. You can still have a job and be an athlete. You can be involved in activities on campus, different clubs. Division II, Division I level, most of the time you're an athlete and that's all you are. You're not involved in any clubs. You're not involved in any extracurricular stuff in terms of the college, or a lot of times even internships you can't necessarily take because you have, athletic commitments. So to me, that to me is why Division III is kind of where it's at. There are no scholarships at Division III level. So, the players that play are the ones that deserve to play most of the time. And, at the Division I level, Division II level with scholarships, a lot of time coaches will stick with scholarship players because they have money invested in them and they have to try to get a return on their investment. Division III is very much like the real world where, people that deserve to play and that have earned that right have the ability to play and they're not necessarily blocked by somebody that's on a scholarship. So, or has lots of recruiting hype or something like that. So, I don't know if that answers your question, but that would be the way I would describe Division III for sure.
All right, Coach. I've noticed that over the last decade or so, technology seems to be, rising steadily in baseball. And my next question is, what equipment, technology have you added to your facilities and your program? And are you planning on adding any more in the future?
Yeah, I think technology can be viewed, in a lot of ways. We're something that we like to measure things. We believe when you measure things, they get better. But I think a lot of coaches have tried to look at the data. Data is objective, right? It is what it is. You throw this hard, your revolutions are this, your spin rate's this, whatever it is that you're measuring. We have a joke that we have a coach on staff called Coach Stopwatch, and Stopwatch doesn't lie. It is what it is. And it's a way to measure improvement and to track things. Lifting and all that kind of stuff is important. It creates that competitive environment. At the end of the day, people want to compete. And when you have a leaderboard in terms of different things that we have in our program, what do you mean that guy's exit velo is this, or he throws this hard, or he, whatever it is that we're doing, it creates that competitive environment where I think coaches out is they think that that's baseball. And while that stuff provides information, knowledge is not power. Application of knowledge is power. And that to me is where the disconnect is with a lot of people. My side, business that I have is with a friend of mine who played for 10 years in the big leagues, Matt Noakes, who's a catcher for the Yankees and Tigers, an all-star Silver Slugger winner, played 5 years with Don Mattingly, hit the middle of their order. We work with a lot of professional organizations, professional players, some amateurs. And what we found is that all the information that professional organizations have, number one is post-mortem, meaning it happens after the fact and they struggle with how to apply it. And number two is they don't know what to do with the data. Like there's a disconnect between the front office and, the player development. And they don't know what to do with this. And they've got data on everything you could possibly imagine. And so they come up with algorithms to try to weigh this a certain percentage to see what this means for this player. But at the end of the day, that's all objective data that tells you a different way to measure. To me, it's no different than a guy's height, no different than a guy's weight, no different than how, those are all things that can, not necessarily height, but, body composition, those things can change, right? So it's important to measure that stuff, and it's important to have the tools to use it, because at the end of the day, technology is something that, was ever changed, improving. But if you don't know how to, pitch design a guy with a Rapsodo, if you don't actually know what it means to be a high spin rate guy, what that means in terms of how to sequence a guy or how to develop a new pitch or whatever, then all it's telling you is just what the guy is. I think coaches are falling into this trap of, well, if I buy this radar gun or if I buy this Rapsodo or hit tracks or whatever, it's just going to make my players better. And that's not necessarily how it works. There are some professional organizations that we work with that will remain nameless that have all of this technology that they don't use it because they don't know how to apply it. I think that's, there's a reason why there are guys in AA that throw 100 miles an hour that never pitch the big leagues. It's not because they don't throw hard enough. It's not because their stuff's not good enough. There's a disconnect of why they know what that guy is. Why is he not being successful? And a lot of times the front office will blame player development will blame the front office, and then it just becomes this disconnect. And so what we try to do with our professional side of our consulting is try to bridge that gap and get guys to understand at the end of the day, it's just about performance. And I think that's why a lot of professional organizations are now turning to the college ranks to try to find coaches that have to develop players to come in and run their player development. The problem with that is that they're not really getting the autonomy and the freedom that they need to be able to actually develop guys. So a lot of it is just for show in terms of, we've got this great guy, he's known for developing pitchers or infielders or whatever. If that organization doesn't allow that guy to actually coach and coach guys up, nothing's really going to change. So, it's a roundabout way of answering your organization. We love technology. Question: I love technology. We use it. We don't live or die by it, because at the end of the day, you can look at video till you're blue in the face, but you still have to step in the box and compete against guys. So what's going to prepare you to be developed and to use it to apply, I think is where the disconnect is. Applying that knowledge is what guides people. Knowledge is not power. There are a lot of really smart people in the world that don't do anything with that knowledge. Applying that knowledge, in my opinion, is where the disconnect is. So it gives you that objective, information, which is valuable. But then how do you apply that to develop your guys? And I think that's, you don't necessarily have to spend a ton of money on, we have a lot of really nice, fancy stuff that we use. But how you apply it is really what matters. And are the players going to buy off on it? And then are they going to be obsessed with the numbers? We had a guy who developed a ton of velocity, could never throw a strike. When he got away from that this past year, all of a sudden, he actually was throwing harder and throwing the ball where he wanted it to go. And as a result, was very successful. So a lot of times it's a mindset thing. You can't think buying the shiny toy is going to necessarily make you better. But a lot of facilities now have that kind of stuff. And parents it looks great for parents and that are spending a lot of money. They've got this great video monitor that's, shows little Johnny hit the ball off the wall at Computer Fenway, So, that stuff's fun, but at the end of the day, is it really making you any better? And that so for me, the focus needs to be on that development.